We are, after 1 year of work with boards, our staff, the community, folks from the ministry, folks from Parliament, not only the provincial but the federal Parliament, discussions with all sorts of people getting input onto our strategic plan, now are ready to launch our next 5-year strategic plan. So I'd like you to pull this out because I think visually and physically it'll guide you in some of what we're trying to do. Our strategic plan, in my mind, its success will not be built on sticking to the plan. It actually will be most successful if we change the plan. Because the moment we get stuck in doing what we have a specific task, we may lose sight of our mission and our purpose. We need to be ready to change. So as much as this articulates a plan, it's a plan to change and grow with a vision and direction based on values. The board of Reena in summer of 2014 started the process and said we are going to go out and look at ourselves critically and openly. We're going to look at all aspects of who we are and what we can be. We engaged over 320 staff in in-depth dialogues. There were dozens of focus groups. There were 87 board members, volunteers, community people who engaged in in-depth discussions. We had 14 individuals who we support, who are self-advocates, who we interviewed and spoke to. There was a lot of work to learn about ourselves. As we begin this process of implementation, the Strategic Planning Committee is going to have a challenge. It's going to have a challenge to measure that success, to guide us, to constantly hold the board, the staff, myself, all of us accountable to this plan. This summary version guides us in telling a story. It tells a story first and foremost about the individual we support, right front and center. Ryan is in the foreground, not in the background. He is the person we all work for. Behind him is the house, the staff, all of us, but in the foreground is Ryan. That's what we have to keep in mind. We have a purpose and that mission has the individuals we support, their lives at the foreground. It is not about us. Below that is a new language that we're going to try to use, a language of Rena Ready. Reena is the qualifier to the readiness. There's something about being Rena Ready. Reena is a Hebrew word for joy. It's an expression that said, as we started Reena, as Reena was founded, that should be done with a sense of simcha, some sense of energy, a sense of joyousness in the quality of life that we can create. It should be fun. But Reena is about Jewish values. It's about a series of values that guide how we do what we do. Rena Ready is to be engaged in communal life. Rena Ready is to live in space and places of maximum independence. To be Rena Ready for employment and meaningful work, where volunteer experiences are just as valuable as working experiences. Rena Ready is to pray and play in the social and spiritual aspects of community. Rena Ready also qualifies the way we operate as an agency. Our board needs to be Rena Ready. Our staff need to be Rena Ready. Our volunteers need to be Rena Ready. A quality that's different, a quality based on certain values. If you turn the page, you'll see those values, clear values. We're using the acronym CLEAR to guide us, but they're built on certain Jewish concepts. They're built on the concepts chesed. So caring is about chesed and tzedek. Compassion and righteousness, knowing what is just and what we should be doing, not what is needed or simple. It's about going that extra level further in our care. Rena Ready and the values behind it are about leadership, the value of tikkun olam, repairing our world. We live in an imperfect world. It's reality. And our job is to try to make it a bit better. All of us. And leadership means working to making it better. It means advocating. It means arguing. It means criticizing ourselves. It means leading, but with not from a front, but in opening the ways for others, to make it enable others to be leaders. Empowerment. The Jewish value we articulate with that is a v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. Value others as you value yourself. Be a self-advocate. Take care of your needs, but don't just take care of your needs. Value the other, recognize the other, and make it better for them than it is today. Accessibility. Lifnei iver al tasim michshol. Don't put a stumbling block before the blind. Don't speak in front of someone who can't hear. Communicate to people for who they are and where they're at. Open that accessibility. Remove those barriers. Those are the values of Reena. And finally, respect. Kvod habriot. This has been striking the chord, I think, with all the staff as I've met with them over the last few weeks. We've talked about the humanity. All of us in the end have foibles, problems, disabilities, inabilities, abilities of various kinds. We're all human. Can we recognize the humanity in each of us? Can we reach out and reach to that person and act that way? So Kvod habriot is recognizing that in the end, we're all just human beings. Those are the values, those clear values that underline where we're going and how we're going forward. We also identified 10 core strategic goals, and if successful in the areas of programs, we would be expanding and delivering greater services to the individuals over a larger area. On achievement of our leadership goals, we will position Reena as a strong and collaborative leader in the developmental services sector. On achievement of our family and community goals, we would be able to better address the expectations of families and frameworks supported by our Jewish values. We also have sustaining goals, 6 sustaining goals. The first is the major areas in the organizational development, and if we implement them and achieve it, will result in a rewarding work environment aligned with the organizational values and strategic direction. In our resources, we'll strengthen our collaboration with our funding partners, with the foundation, and generate revenue that will sustain the organization into the future. Together, these make us Rena Ready. And that's the summary inside. As I was preparing this Shabbat, I was in shul listening to the Torah portion. And if any of you know, the Torah portion this week was Matot. And it's really an exceptional moment in history and in leadership. For 40 years, Moses, the leader, planner, spiritual guide, was directed and guided by God to provide an official strategic plan, the plan. Done. 40 years of work. Was about to head into Israel. And suddenly, 2 tribes stood up and said, nope, we're not going. We're changing the plan. Moses lost it. Lost in a way that he had never lost it before. Sure, he struck a stone. He got angry. But in this parsha, 11 lines, that's the longest expression, negative expression and anger expression from Moses ever. Why at this moment was he so furious? For 11 verses, Moses went on to chastise and be angry with those tribes. Rabbi Kaminsky notes, Moshe understood at that moment that the worst sin possible was that they didn't recognize the impact of their action on everyone else. The impact could be huge. Hundreds of thousands of people would be standing there doubting themselves, not knowing if the strategic plan was the right plan. They weren't taking into account the ramifications. Those 2 tribes weren't taking into account the ramifications on the people of Israel. What's interesting is a few verses later, Moses comes to a realization. It wasn't the mission that was changed, it was only the plan. And suddenly he reversed. After this diatribe and screaming, He recognized it's just the plan that's changing, not the mission. The sense of collective community. The tribes were arguing for a collective action. They were part of the military move forward. They were saying we were part of one people. We just wanted to change the plan. Moses went with that change and not only accepted the change, he went further and had another half-tribe stay behind and not cross the river. He went further in changing and accepting the plan can change if you stick to the mission. In the next 5 years, we'll be tested. We'll need to recognize that like the tribes of Gad and Reuven, not everything that we do, say, or act may be interpreted with the intent or motivation that it gets presented. Our job is to be conscious that everything we do affects not only ourselves but others. It's great to know that in this we're not alone. We have committed and active partners, government, our board, families, and many of the people we support who self-advocate. Reena today announces the start of our strategic plan. I hope we will take inspiration from our tradition to help us move forward by remaining committed to the vision and be ready to change the plan. May Reena continue to grow from strength to strength. Chazak, chazak, v'nitchazek.